Hey everybody, Cody with Princess Craft RV, and we wanted to take a quick walk through the Palomino Pause 20.3 Victron Battleborn and Garmin products and kind of go over what they are and how to operate them. So let's hop into the back of this thing and take a look at those Victron components. All right, so here we are at the back of the Pause 20.3, and this little compartment here that's on the back has all of our Victron equipment in it. Starting over here on the left, we've got their 3,000 watt multi-plus inverter charger. So this is going to provide your 120 volt service when you're off-grid camping. So it's going to take our 12 volt batteries, invert it into a 120 volt service so we can run items like our air conditioners, our microwave, and plug in 110 appliances and like charge our laptops, things like that. So that's what that does. On this panel here, we've got our Servo GX from Victron. This is kind of like our communication hub. It's where all of these other devices are plugging in for communication. It's sending out our signal up to our Garmin, all of that good stuff. We've got our Victron Orion XS. This is a 50 amp DC to DC charger. This is going to allow your tow vehicle to accurately charge our onboard lithium battery bank. And then we've got our two Victron MPPT solar controllers. So each one of these controls our solar that's mounted on the roof of the unit because we've got quite a bit up there. We've got our DC load circuit breaker and our Garmin circuit breaker. So these are resettable. There's a push button where you can trip them on your own, and then there's a little tab that pops out and you just push that back in to reset it. Now a couple of other breakers that we have back here are going to be the ones up here that say Orion in and out. That is going to be for the inlet from our tow vehicle to the Orion XS, and then the outlet from the Orion XS over to our battery bank on board. Below that, we've got our communication circuit breaker, and we've got our battery heater. And then we've got our solar array circuit breakers right here, and then we've got our battery protection breakers here. So this is kind of where everything happens and is protected on this unit as far as it goes with our off-grid items. Now mounted right behind here is our Battleborn Game Changer 270 amp hour batteries, and they are stacked up behind here, behind all of this equipment. So let's hop inside, let's take a look at the Garmin and go over how to use that. All right, so inside the Pause 20.3, right to the left of the door in our overhead cabinet, we've got our Garmin control panel. So the way you're gonna kind of get this thing going is you're gonna touch the screen. You've got a power button down here to where you can turn the whole unit on and off. If you are all the way back out, say you start here, you're going to touch the pause button. It's going to take a minute to load everything up, look at everything that it's got. It's going to bring in our next emblem here. We're going to touch on that screen again, and that's going to get us into our home screen. And once we're into our home screen, this is kind of a general overall picture of kind of everything that's going on, where you can turn lights on and off, you can look at your battery voltage and capacity, turn your water pump on and off, you can turn your Truma air conditioner on and off, open up vent lids. All that stuff's doable from right here. We can look at our tank levels. So it's just kind of a overall snapshot of what's going on. So if we just start right here, working in our left corner, we've got our battery capacity. It shows our voltage and our capacity at 99%. Right next to that, we've got our temperature at 97 degrees. We can see all interior lights, so we can turn those on and off with that button. All exterior lights will do outside. We can fire up our water heater from here and our water pump. Now moving next to that, we're going to see this whole box right here that is essentially climate control. So here we're going to see our inside temp at 116 degrees. This is going to be our desired temp set right here by using these up and down arrows for our air conditioner. Next to that, we're going to see our modes. So the one here is going to be whether you're going to select cool, off, auto. The one next to that with the fan blade is going to be our fan speed. So whether you're on low fan, high fan, or auto fan. And the selection right below that is going to be actually for our vents. So not technically air conditioning here, but for fresh air ventilation, and you can control those there. And then at the very top, these three circles here are going to be our tank levels freshwater, gray water, black water that will move like a fuel gauge whenever you start getting liquids into each of those tanks. So right below the home screen, we're going to see our light bulb. We're going to tap onto that. And this is going to take us to more of an individual control for our interior lighting. So we can still do all lights over here on the right-hand side with these two buttons, or we can break down and do individual lighting with these oval selections at the top or the bottom, or you can actually touch the circles on the screen and turn the lighting on and off as well, or just do it from down here. And then you can also do the dimming function. If you touch the oval button, then you have dimming control over those lights. So that's kind of our light control panel there. The next one is going to be the gears. This is going to be for your front and rear stabilizers and your front jack, and then also your awning extension and control here. So that's how you're going to control all of those items in the gear setting. The next one is going to be just our tanks. So you can see our tank levels here, and it's going to give you the ability to turn your water pump on and your water heater, and then also your tank heaters in this screen as well. So some repetitive stuff, but it's just more of a specific screen for that. Then we've got our lightning bolt. This is where we can control some of our off-grid stuff here. So we can see on the big blue box here, this is essentially our inverter right here. So as long as the switch on the inverter in the back is in the on position, now we can control our inverter from here, whether we want it on, off, or in charger only mode. And it'll tell you with these little blue lights right here what's going on. And then it's going to tell you in the AC load box the output. So we're outputting 120 volts and we're consuming 10 amps per hour right now based off of what that box is showing us. Shore power, if we were plugged into shore power, we would see that information here. Again, we're going to have our battery box right here and our battery consumption rate, so that -77, because we've got our air conditioner running, our current battery voltage, and our battery capacity. And then over here, you're going to see we've got roof charger and auxiliary charger. So shows how much solar voltage production we've got and our amperage production from those solar panels. And that is what we get to dive to into this screen. The next screen is kind of like a axle kind of picture. It looks like a wheel with a spring on it, if you will. This is going to be where we can adjust our air suspension on the 20.3 model, where we can adjust different suspension settings, air up, air down, because it's one of the features of this trailer, and it's a pretty cool feature. There are some specifics that you need to know about air pressures where you need to be. There's a gauge on the axle that you'll want to look at. It's got a green and a red spot. You always want to make sure when you tow you're in the green. And so if you've got to make adjustments, that's where you're going to do it. And then you can air down when you get to the campsite, make it lower to the ground and a little more stable, if you will. So it pretty much covers the Garmin control and how to do everything in the Pause 20.3. All right, so we wanted to take a quick look and review the stuff on the new Pause X, the 22.4. So with the Pause 20.3 and the Pause 22.4, all of this outside equipment is going to be identical and how it's controlled. So let's hop inside, take a quick look, because they have separated some things on the inside. All right, so here we are inside the Pause X, or the Pause X 22.4. So again, we've got our Garmin touchscreen just in the overhead cabinet, just to the left of the entry door. A lot of this is going to look the same. All of your controls are going to look very similar as far as your lighting and everything goes on the home screen. They have changed a little bit on this screen, so instead of having like the individual like lights, they have these long dashes, and I think that's because they changed the lighting to more of a light strip versus having recessed lighting. And then we've got our tank page is essentially going to be the same, and then our suspension. So this unit doesn't have the automated suspension that the Pause 20.3 does, but it still has air ride. But you're just going to air up and down from here, so you're not going to get that automated bit with the feedback of pressure. So you got to pay a little more attention to what's going on there. What they have completely removed from here is the Victron off-grid energy management or controls. They've moved that over to the Victron energy control panel that is mounted to the right of the door underneath the TV. So on its default screen, It's very similar to what we were looking at on the Garmin panel. This red box would be our shore input or our shore power incoming. We can see our Victron inverter here with our light on, our output power that's going to show in wattages. We're going to be able to see our batteries here, our capacity, our current wattage, what we're pulling in wattage, what we're pulling in amperage, our voltage, and then over here we can see what our solar is doing as far as wattage goes. If you tap on the screen, we can then go into our menu. Once we're in our menu, we can control some other stuff. We can see all of our settings in here. We can turn our, let's just talk about the multi-plus, the inverter here. We can change our switch setting to off, charger only, inverter only, or on. Once all that changes, your state readout would tell you what it's doing here, what our input current limit is. So it's a 30 amp unit, so typically we're going to limit that input current to 30 amps, and then we can see our voltages and all that good information. There's a lot more information that you can get from the Victron energy panel versus what they had in the Garmin panel. So if you really like to dive into the information of what's happening with your off-grid system, the Victron panel is going to give you a lot more information there. So, all right, so that's going to pretty much be the differences between the Pause 20.3 and the Pause X 22.4 and how they've split the systems up and the information that you get in each one. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. That pretty much covers our Victron energy systems that are equipped on the Palomino Pause units. They've got the Pause Reboot, and the Pause X that all have similar components. So if you got any further questions, check us out at princesscraft.com. Give us a call or check us out in person in Round Rock, Texas or Katy, Texas.